With the introduction of the new expression of interest system in Alberta and its guidelines, there seems to be a discussion going on in the online world about the value of education in Canada. Depending on the way you look at the guidelines of the points awarded for your education, for many people, the way they read it or in situations that they are, it seems to them that this particular new system of awarding points is not giving enough value to a education in Canada. So in this particular context, I wanted to do this quick discussion where I want to differentiate very clearly between a Canadian education versus higher education in Canada. So these two concepts are, even though it sounds similar, it could be a bit different. So if you look at the guidelines which are out there for the points awarded for your education, initial reading very well indicated that if you have done your education in Canada, you would get certain points. If you have done it in Canada outside Alberta, you get 6 points. If you have done your education, highest education in Alberta, you get 10 points. And then depending on your highest level of education, you would get some additional points. However, when people started filling up the expression of interest form, there was this question on the expression of interest form where it asked for your highest level of education. And then the question was that if you have completed the highest level of education in India, then select the location where it was completed. Which kind of meant was that if you have not done your highest level of education in Canada, then you would not get points for your education in Canada, which was either 10 points or 6 points, depending on where you have done your education. So that is the reason it's very important to understand the difference between Canadian education and Canadian higher education, right? So let's take a very quick view at the typical education progression of any individual. So we all start from school, then we do our bachelor's, then few people go on to do masters, and then those who with a scholarly or a academic bent of mind all obviously go ahead and do their PhD or doctorate. Along with these traditional education milestones, there is always a option of getting your diplomas and certificates in the areas of your interest. These options are usually available throughout your academic life. You could do a diploma certificate after school, along with your bachelor's, after masters, before masters. So depending on area of interest, there are different type of diploma and certification available. So these are a traditional education options or credential milestone options that any individual usually has. But if we look at the way the weightage is given to these milestones, right, like we saw in the Alberta expression of interest guidelines, also the way the weightage is done is usually like a school or secondary school is given the least weightage, followed by a diploma or certificate, followed by bachelor's, then master's, then PhD. This is a typical progression of the point system in various pathways in Canada. And this is what we have also seen happening. Now, if you have done a typical pathway where your academic progression is something which is very common, where you have done your earlier level of education in your home country and then come and do your higher education in Canada, if that is the regular progression that you have taken, there is no confusion. Like for example, I did my bachelor's in India, I came to Canada and did my master's. I am okay with that. So that progression is fine. So when I go ahead and answer that question, what is your highest level of education? I can always say master's. Then if they ask me what is your location of highest education, and then I would say that it is in Canada. So I would get 6 or 10 points depending on location I have done my master's. However, the problem comes in very certain cases, and now that I am interacting with a lot of people, it looks like it is also one of the very popular method of getting your education in Canada is that where you have done your highest level of education in your home country and you come to Canada for doing a diploma or certificate, which is obviously not at the highest weightage as far as different point systems are concerned. So there is where the confusion actually starts, and if we need to take any kind of guidance or help from these different point systems that are available in Canada, so I will do a very quick comparison between the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program's point system and the Ircc established comprehensive ranking scheme. So if we look into both of these, we will see that there is a clear progression where diploma or certificates are not considered higher than your bachelor's or master's. That is the same guideline we see in Aaip. Obviously they don't spell it out correct that way, but the way they have awarded the points is kind of indicating that your bachelor's is higher than your diploma certificate and your master's is higher than your bachelor's. So if you have done a certificate course in Canada or a diploma course in Canada for say 1 year or 2 years, so that is considered at a lower level. So if you have, say for example, if you have done a diploma certificate, you would get 4 points. If you did a bachelor's degree, you get a 7 points, and this is anywhere in the world. The first section of 12 points is anywhere in the world. You just need to get your education credential assessment, your ECA, done, and if as per that ECA you have done your bachelor's or master's in your home country, that will be considered a higher level of education compared to a diploma or certificate done in Canada. So that is again a very clear guideline that we have seen. However, when you see that in Ircc there are certain exceptions where if you have done multiple diplomas or multiple certificates where one program or certificate is more than 3 years, so you have spent enough time in your education similar to your bachelor's degree, in those kind of cases you might get a bit more points than your bachelor's degree. So if you have done one bachelor's degree in your home country, came to Canada to do two certificates or diploma, and then one of those diploma or degrees is higher than your is more than 3 years, then you might get a slightly more points for that system for those kind of education. But in general, a certificate or diploma would be considered at a lower weightage as far as your bachelor's and master's are concerned. So what is the key takeaway from this particular observation? So as per me, the main takeaway from this is the fact that if you are planning to come to Canada to do your education, I will suggest make sure that you follow a natural progression where your highest education is in Canada, right? Don't get stuck into the fact or the temptation of doing a diploma, a 1-year diploma or a 2-year diploma in some small colleges and just landing in Canada just for the sake of coming here. Again, I'm not judging on anybody's personal condition or their motivation to move to Canada, but as far as the guidelines are concerned, it consistently is giving more weightage to higher education in Canada. And if you have seen some other developments that is happening in the PGWP realm, you would also see that the preference is towards higher education and in a true sense a higher education, and in fact in certain guided sector. So that is a different discussion about the developments happening on the PGWP side. But for this particular discussion, just wanted to clarify on one point, is that your higher education matters, and if you have done your higher education in your home country, that will be considered higher. So a bachelor's in say India or a master's in India will not be considered or will not be weighted less than a diploma in Canada. If you have done your master's in Canada, it will be given the appropriate value it deserves. So when people are asking me that okay, then there is no use of Canadian degrees, I would say no, that is not a right statement. If you have selected your courses correctly, if you have selected your career progression or your education progression correctly, that will be given a higher value if they are selected properly. Okay, so I hope I was able to make some sense on this particular discussion, because again, as I said in the starting of the video, this discussion was for a comparison between a Canada education and the higher education in Canada, higher level education in Canada. So all education, all degrees, all diplomas are not equal, and that is very clear from the guidelines that have been out in different platforms and different provinces, and even at the federal level. Okay, so I hope you guys got some good information from this particular video. If you have questions, reach out to me. I will try my best to answer those, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much.